Cindy and Juan join us now. Thank you so much for joining us. Cindy, okay, so you weren't a vegan when Juan met you and you started dating, but when you decided to become a vegan, how did this create problems? It would seem to me, you say, okay, I want to be a vegan. He says, okay, and it's all good.
Well, at first, he was definitely very supportive, and he's always been very supportive of, my choice to be vegan, even going so far as, helping me communicate it to our family and friends. But over time, as he would continue to cook meat in the home, I started, as I gained more distance from eating meat, things like the smell of meat kind of started to bother me more. Seeing meat in the fridge started to bother me more. I didn't want to buy it for him anymore, because to me, this has always been kind of like an ethical position. So, we came up against issues like that, and that was kind of over time when the issues started to surface.
You mentioned that it became an ethical thing for you, down to going to the grocery store, for example, and shopping for meat. It was something, Juan, that Cindy no longer wanted to do. She did not even want it in the home. How did that make you feel? I mean, was it a matter of, okay, you knew what you signed up for? I ate meat at the first date, and I plan on eating meat for the 25 years we're together. Why did it cause problems, do you think?
No, I mean, I was definitely surprised by by Cindy's position when I first heard it. Of course, your first thought is usually, how does this affect me?
Yeah.
And, but after some conversation and, really trying to get an understanding of Cindy's position and why she felt this way, I understood when she made the choice to be vegan, why she was doing it. And when this came up, I also came to understand her position as well. And we've been able to come to what I think is a really good arrangement for us and an agreement so that we're both happy.
Well, before you got to this agreement, though, what kind of problems, Juan, did this create? I mean, the show is about these things being in the middle and impacting the marriage. At its worst, what happened, Juan?
Well, I think we had to figure out, logistically, how are we going to make it work? If she wanted to have a vegan household or didn't want to go and do the shopping for ingredients that weren't vegan, how are we going to make that work in terms of how we split up our chores, not just, grocery shopping and cooking, but also our other household chores. So we had a kind of a bigger conversation about how we were going to logistically make it work. And we came to an agreement that we have a vegetarian household, and it's something that we're both happy with. And I'm still able to eat my meat when I go out.
Licensed psychologist Dr. Robin Smith is back with us to talk with our couple, Cindy and Juan. So, Dr. Robin, this conversation, you believe, is not really about food, that it's deeper inside. What do you hear then?
I hear a couple, and actually I give Cindy and Juan a lot of credit for navigating something that really is about respect and dignity, about being able to realize that a third wheel is really a code word for an opportunity to really strengthen the relationship, to flex new muscles in the marriage. It's easy to say we love someone when they mirror us, when they say what we say and they eat what we eat and they believe what we believe. It is something different when we are trying to create belonging with someone who sees the world differently. And that's how we grow up and become more mature as people and as better, partners and citizens.
Cindy, did you ever get to a point where you tried to change Juan or felt that you were trying to change him versus him understanding the ethical decision you made to no longer eat meat?
Well, so what I can say about that is that, another part of my story is that I was raised as a vegetarian. So I have experience with kind of interacting with people who are not vegetarian and being a vegetarian for most of my life, really. And one thing I learned pretty early on is that trying to kind of force people to change or convince them to change is really not effective, and it often backfires. So my approach with him from the very beginning is like, you know, even though I do have this desired outcome, if he's going to do it, it has to be his decision. I never want to force him to do it or put any sort of pressure on it as much as I may want it. Of course, I'm human. You know, sometimes I may get frustrated or things like that. But, you know, at the end of the day, at my core, you know, if he does go vegan, I want it to be fully his decision. And I just can kind of help him along the way.
So that means you've given him 2 more weeks to get it together. I'm kidding. Juan, the clock is ticking, friend. You better change. So how do you navigate meals right now in the house? Do you have separate areas for your filet mignon or your steak or whatever you eat? How do you divvy it up in the home, since it is so deeply rooted in her ethical beliefs?
Yeah, so at the home, the agreement that we have right now is that at home we have a vegetarian household. So I do still have eggs and I still have dairy products like butter and cheese, but everything else is strictly vegetarian. Cindy's a fantastic cook and makes a lot of really great meals that I enjoy that are vegan. And, you know, it's really not that hard for me to get my fix, so to speak.
So do you find yourself then in a drive-through with a burger then? I mean, when you're out away from home, are you like, okay, is she in the car? Here I go, I'm gonna get my burger. Is that how? Cindy says yes.
Sometimes yes. Sometimes I will take the chance to, you know, go through a drive-through if I'm out. But, you know, I'm well fed. I just want everyone to know.
Dr. Robin, you were saying?
You know, one thing I think that, Juan, I just heard, because I listened for language, you said, for right now, we are a vegetarian home. And that's important because relationships are about evolution. You know, who we were when we started our journey is not who we are now. And I think one of the things we can all learn from Cindy and from Juan is that this journey that they're on is evolving. And so it could be that this vegetarian home becomes a vegan home. It also could be a home that at some point, for whatever reason, welcomes meat, welcomes the world differently. And I know that can be hard to imagine, but I see Cindy and Juan nodding. And that's the wisdom in this, that you can allow yourselves to evolve into a new contract. That's what a union is. It's a contract that often we don't renegotiate. And the best unions are those which allow us to come in and be who we are in that moment.